All new at 4. Last night, members of the January 6th committee accusing former President Donald Trump of violating his oath of office, saying he did not do enough to stop the riots. Joining me right now to really break down last night's hearing and talk about where we go from here is Meet the Press moderator Chuck Todd. All right, so from the testimony we heard last night, we learned that the former president was calling senators trying to get the electoral vote delayed. Is that a criminal act?
That's a question for the Justice Department. You know, look, I've had folks make the case that yes, trying to overturn trying to delay the certification, that in itself is a crime. It is a violation of the law. So, but calling senators is not, right? And certainly it was well within his right to do that. And this has always been, I think, the tricky question about. There's no doubt what the president did was unethical, was amoral, was against, and in fact, the founders, the whole reason we have an impeachment process is the founders knew some crimes were meant to be dealt with in a political forum, which is what impeachment is, versus a legal forum, the Justice Department. But the fact is that the Republican Party decided they couldn't bring themselves to do this in the political realm when Mitch McConnell decided to condemn Trump but acquit him. And so we're in this space, and I think it's still a high bar to bring this prosecution. I think my guess is justice has opened a criminal investigation. I'd be surprised if they haven't. There's too much evidence that's been uncovered that certainly makes you think that there's something here to look into. But whether they actually bring charges, that's another bar they have to meet. And, you know, I look at it this way. The fact that the Justice Department hasn't appointed a special counsel, to me, is a small yellow flag that maybe they're not going to open a criminal probe, because I still think if they really were thought they had a case against the former president, they would not have a Biden appointee be doing it, that they would find a former Republican U.S. attorney and name that person as special counsel. You want to take as much of the politics out of something like this as you possibly can.
So what are we doing here then? What is all of this about?
Oh, I think it's about making sure we have the facts. I view this as almost more of like the committee hearings of the House Un-American Affairs Committee back in the 50s, where it was important to sort of get this on the record, to see what happened. There are legislative fixes that need to be made so that some of the ambiguous parts of the Electoral Count Act don't get taken advantage of again by somebody like Trump or somebody that just decides to do this. But I do think it's important. I mean, this is, you know, we think the Warren Commission, right? You know, what happened? How did this happen? You know, it's too big of an event not to sort of unpack. So this is something I think we need for history and for the ability to fix our democracy going forward. And then the accountability has got to be up to at the end of the day, the accountability part, I think, is in the hands of both elected politicians and the electorate itself. And at the end of the day, that's, you know, if you want the democracy to thrive, you have to trust the voters are going to process this information.
That is for sure. Chuck Todd, thanks so much for your time. As always, you can watch Meet the Press right here on WCNC Charlotte Sundays at 10 a.m.